So the newest Everdark Sovereign boss just dropped in Nightreign, and this time it is Augur, or Maris, or whatever you want to call it. And look, I already know this video is going to ruffle some feathers. I have seen the takes on Twitter. Some people are calling this boss one of FromSoft's best designs yet, and others, like me, think that, yeah, not so much. But before you scroll down to write a hate comment in all caps, just hear me out. I am not saying this boss is trash just to be a hater. I have reasons, and I think they will all make sense, especially if you have played it solo. If you haven't fought this boss yet but want to know what the fight's like, here's the rundown. It starts off with good old vanilla Augur, which honestly poses about as much threat as a fish out of water. You really shouldn't have any trouble with this phase, it's there just to fill the time basically. Then, once you put that toddler of a boss to bed, you get a legendary weapon drop. A variant of your Nightfarer's starting weapon, but this time it comes with the Ash of War Storm Ruler. This is a huge throwback to Demon Souls and Dark Souls 3. And here's where the gimmick kicks in. You have to use Storm Ruler to deal any meaningful damage. You can either just spam light attacks or charge up the Ash of War to do a massive slash. When you charge the Ash of War, you regain FP, so you really shouldn't run out of it. And now Everdark Augur enters, way bigger and definitely more annoying. Now Augur has completely different moves. There aren't many of them, so I will just go over them real quick. It still has the charge attack, which surprisingly is quite easy to dodge. Now instead of the little water waves, it summons this massive tsunami, which deals a lot of damage over time if you are caught in it, but luckily you can just avoid it by running sideways. The worst attack Augur has by far is this one, where it keeps throwing these bubbles that explode. Visually they are cool, but mechanically they are a nightmare, but more about them later. Augur can also create this beam which doesn't actually deal damage, only the explosion after the attack does damage. And lastly, it has this attack where it just kinda does nothing, but you start getting sleep buildup, which will for sure sleep you, but luckily you can use a fully charged Storm Ruler Ash of War to stun the boss out of the attack. At like 60% HP the boss also gets these flying orbs, which shoot these laser beams. And they can be very annoying, but you can technically destroy them, and after you shoot down all of them the boss does get staggered for a few seconds. And yeah, the rest is the same, except now the beams from the orb shoot out between or after most of its attacks. On paper this all sounds like a decent escalation of difficulty, but it starts to fall apart fast when you realize how completely unbalanced the fight is depending on your team size. If you saw my Nightlord tier list video, you will remember I already had no love for base Augur. I dropped that boss into D tier, so when I saw they were making an Everdark Sovereign version, I was hoping they would rework it into something more engaging. And yeah, technically they did, but interesting doesn't always mean good. The Storm Ruler gimmick feels off. Not because using Storm Ruler isn't fun, honestly it is. I love slicing the boss with this anime-esque attack. That's cool. But forcing every Nightfarer to use the exact same sword for the entire fight? Yeah, not as much. That goes against everything Nightreign stands for. The game is built around experimenting with different builds, playstyles and synergies across 8 totally unique Nightfarers. But this boss, it just says nah, and hands you a cookie cutter weapon no matter who you are playing. So other than your abilities and passives, every attempt feels the same. And even worse, it penalizes squishier characters. Raider or Guardian will have a much easier time here simply because of their tankiness. And because of these gimmicks, most ultimates feel pointless unless you are using them to negate damage or to revive someone. Honestly, a better version of this fight could have had different versions of the Storm Ruler depending on your class. Like Iron Eye gets a massive lightning bow, Recluse gets some epic spell, and Wilder gets what we already have. Just imagine the potential, but nope. FromSoft pretty much said nostalgia over build creativity, which feels like a cheap nostalgia bait. And yeah, I get it, most players will only fight this boss once, but for those of us who do multiple runs or challenge builds, this boss has zero replay value. Okay, I am not here just to rant. Credit where credit is due. FromSoft did address one of the biggest issues from the standard Augur fight, all of the constant running. Thanks to Storm Ruler's range, you can actually deal damage without sprinting across the arena like it's an Olympic event. That's a huge improvement. But why does the Storm Ruler attack look like magic? Where's the wind visual like in the previous games? Or even lightning, considering Augur's weakness is, well, lightning. It just feels like a missed opportunity for a cooler visual feedback. So yeah, while it's a neat nostalgic nod for Souls fans, it's more style over substance. Let's circle back to those exploding bubbles. Easily the worst part of the boss. Why? Well, the explosion radius is way bigger than it looks. They don't all explode at once, meaning you dodge one, then get blown up by the next one a second later. The number of bubbles is the same whether you're playing solo, duo or trio, and that's a problem. In trios it's way more manageable. Of course you can technically destroy the bubbles with the Ash of War, but it's not as reliable as simply dodging because of FP and stamina restraints. Another reason this fight is just way easier in trios is because of the orbs. The orbs attack everyone at the same time, so that is not the issue. The issue is that in trios it just takes way faster to destroy them and to get that stun, because, you know, there are 3 of you. This is the same issue that Libra had, where in solo and trio there are the same amount of those sigils, which just makes no sense. The simplest fix would be that for every orb broken, 3 of them break at the same time, but oh well. Look, in trios the boss is fine. I'd even call it average, but in solo it's tedious, gimmicky and not very fun. And it's not even about the difficulty, it just becomes repetitive very fast. It's frustrating, because FromSoft can do gimmick fights very well. Look at Rykard in Elden Ring, which had a very similar gimmick, and there it is executed way better, and Rykard as a boss is also just way more interesting, but whatever. Also, hot take, Serpent Hunter is way cooler than Storm Ruler, there, I said it. The relic you get from this boss is worse than the regular one, but this one is better if you play solo. It gives you extra 100 HP, gives you continuous HP recovery of 1 hit point per second, and lastly, when you get below 20% HP, it starts healing you for 0.5% of your max HP plus 1 HP per second for 50 seconds. If you do the math, you pretty much get healed for 25% of your max HP and extra 50 HP, which if you are at 20% HP will bring you to around 50% HP. And yeah, it is clear why this relic is better for solo than the normal one, since the normal one has 2 effects which only work in co-op. Overall, the boss is fine, especially in trios, but in solo it is way worse because of the difficulty difference. But even if it was fine in solo, the gimmick is just kinda whatever, and because of that the fight has like no replay value. So far out of all of the Everdark bosses it might actually be the worst, but Sentient Pest is also quite dogshit, but at least in that fight you can actually use your own build. So yeah, before the video ends, I just quickly wanted to remind you that at 1000 subscribers I will be doing the hardest possible Mesmer no-hit challenge, which will be at rune level 1, with bare fists only and with no Shadow Tree fragments or any buffs. So pretty much I can't use anything. The entire boss fight would be like 3 hours, so if that is something you wanna see then make sure to subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, press like and subscribe. See you in the next one.